Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Nigeria Now, the program where we look at some of the happenings in the country. Also, we do well to look at some of the sectors that we feel are very important, maybe one or two things that need to be discussed, and we feel it's very important we do that on the program. And you can join us through Facebook and YouTube to drop your opinion concerning some of the issues we will be discussing. I am Sada Lashidashim, and of course, I'll be doing the program with Rachel Tansy. Good afternoon, Rachel.
Afternoon, Sarah.
All right. How is the weather? The rain? I think it's raining already.
I mean, it's a beautiful weather, but a weather which, if you don't take care of yourself, you'll be down.
Of course, of course. So for those who are maybe it's raining in other parts of the country, I remember Nimet said that the rain will be heavy today. So
yes,
we should do all we can to keep ourselves warm and all of that. Now let's take a look at what's happening. Quite a number of things to discuss. We're having the issue of protests tomorrow coming from Sanu and Nasu. We're also having the issue of poverty, or talking about, we can look at food insecurity as a result of banditry as well, where we're seeing that some states have been affected. And as well, we also want to look at looking at just quite a number of things that we should discuss. But then let's start from the issue of let's look at the educational sector first and foremost. The fact that we are having Sanu and Nasu saying that, you know what, we'll be having a 1 day warning protest, more like a warning, because they will be embarking on a proper protest coming July 18th. So tomorrow is just a day protest to actually signal to the government that you need to do something. We saw the fact that since last week, they have been complaining about their foremost arrears that the government have refused to pay, and the fact that the government need to do something. Even though we saw ASO also saying that they might be warming up for a strike as well if the government do not do something, and we see that they have said that they will ASO will be having a meeting with the government 25th of July, so 2 weeks from today. But then we are seeing that tomorrow we are going to be having a protest coming from SANU, that's the Senior Staff Association of the Nigerian Universities, as well as the non-academic staff of the university. And we have said this a number of times, so each time I bring up this issue, it sounds like we're repeating ourselves over and over and over, but we can help you because this is a situation that needs to be handled. We're seeing already the fact that state universities, the portal will be open for them to make apply for their loan, the student loan, and all of that. But in the midst of all of this, and we're seeing that there is going to be protests. And I remember I've asked this question, and many other people have asked the fact that why do we have our government being very careless when it comes to the education? I mean, when they are supposed to do something about making sure that lecturers do not go back on strike. Because once there's a strike, we know that already that will affect the academic calendar for the year. Because already for schools who have finished this session, they're looking at a new session again starting by September, hopefully. So right now, schools are trying to see what they can do to put things together. Already last week, we saw a number of universities that possibly might not actually have the exams because of protests and all of these things. But then here we're seeing the bigger board right now and saying, you know what, we're tired. We've been talking to the government, we've given them warning, and it seems they are not listening to us. So tomorrow there's going to be protest. So that is to say that academic session might be grounded in some of these varsities. We have the non-academic staff as well as the senior association going for this 1 day protest, hoping that maybe the protest will ginger the government to do something regarding the educational sector, especially at tertiary institutions.
Yes. In my opinion, Sele, these unions are calculative, they are sensitive, they are very deliberate and also intentional in what they are trying to do. And by calculative is that now schools are off session as it is now. Most university, the federal university, the state university, majority of them, even including some private university, this is the period where there is a break for a whole session before a new session start. An academic year begins again, which we are looking at August to September will be a start. And they have started this talk since June. In fact, way before that, towards the end of the second semester, that is the academic year for 2023 and 24. Now looking forward to academic session for 24 and 2025. And they are putting it within a period that they expect the government to come and act swiftly. so that give or take, before schools return back and sessions start, we will see that they are able to settle their issue with the federal government and not go on a strike eventually. Now, this is where, Sele, every time I see unions acting like that, I see a sensible union over the decisions sometimes the government comes and take at the end of the day. Now, this is where I would see and know whether the federal government of Nigeria care about the education system, if or not they are comfortable with students being on strike or not. We are looking at a time of 18 to 25th and all of that. From today is a good is a time frame that is good enough. And apart from that, it's still time before another session starts. So it's enough period of time for the government to act quickly so that we will not have ASUU going on strike, and we will not have SSANU going on a strike eventually, and then school will continue. Now, the message is that we don't want to go on a strike. We do want our academic session to go on as planned. We are now waiting for the message from the federal government. And I hope they act swiftly, because we've seen several, we can talk about NLC and TUC, giving the federal government a long rope. We've seen that a lot of times. And what did the government do with it? Nothing. And that's why we are where we are, concerning minimum wage, concerning palliatives, concerning allowances to ease hardship and all of that. And I believe this is the same that we are about to face in our tertiary institutions and all of that. This time is good enough. And I believe this is the point where we wait and see how the government acts and the message they will be sending to us as Nigerians clearly regarding how they want to tackle certain things. We see the government pumping in different kinds of funds into the economic system. And so when you look at it, education is neglected. A lot of supplementary, left, right, center, a lot of funds having access to these funds and that fund, signing this and that. Recently, we are seeing that the President Tinubu have approved 2 trillion naira to be sunk into the economy for in a period of 6 months, and education is not captured. And we are trying to neglect the fact that our economy will thrive on education. When we talk about industrialization, it's education. When we talk about taking our agriculture to the next level that is expected to, is education. Perhaps the government is comfortable with employing foreign help. We want to do electricity, we're bringing the Chinese and the Germans. We want to do agriculture, we're bringing the Israelis, we're bringing the people that are leading when it comes to food and all of that. We want to do anything, we keep bringing people that already have a market in Nigeria. We can talk about electricity. Do you think we will get the best from people that produce the generators we use and all of that? But when we upgrade our own education system, it means we will have the liberty of transforming our own economy based on our own knowledge within the country. So it's really sad seeing where a lot of fundings are going in the government, and despite several fundings left, right, center, I still see education being neglected. And I believe that this is one of the reasons ASUU is just sitting down and looking at what the government is doing and is wondering, why are some of these funds not coming our way?
You know, Rachel, I mean, in the morning we're looking at what personnel cost is in some of these states. Now, I know we're not discussing about that, but it's not far-fetched from the fact that we're beginning, just like you rightly mentioned, for each year we see budget, we just cannot help but wonder that there are certain sectors that you just cannot help but ask the question, why are we seeing this particular sector having more funding than the sectors that ideally we should see more funding? We've talked about the fact that we cannot say that security is overfunded. There's nothing as such when it comes to security, because we need to do all that is needed so that people will know that they are secure. The same thing goes to education. You rightly mentioned of every other sector cannot thrive if we are not doing something about education. You're talking about the doctors, you're talking about the engineers, talk about every other profession in Nigeria. We need them to actually go through the educational sector. They need to be educated about certain things. So just like we said, let's just keep our fingers crossed. I'm hoping that maybe the protest tomorrow will actually send a message to the government. And I hope that they will do something before the proper protest will hold on the 18th of July. Now, I mean, during the weekend, I've been seeing the queues resurfacing again.
Yes.
So it's not just in the FCT, it's not just in Lagos. We're seeing that various states are beginning to see things like the scarcity of fuel. And just last week, Friday, we were praising the government concerning opening of the CNG stations in Abuja as well as in Lagos. And then I was hoping that that is the beginning of a new beginning for us in Nigeria, where we begin to see something new. But it seems somehow we're seeing that this morning, reason why the queue is because we're seeing that various filling stations have increased their pump price for petrol, and that is the reason why. So right now, petrol is about 720 naira, depending on which state you are in. So we're looking at, this is just like a price that maybe in Abuja or Lagos will be, but we never can tell how much fuel will be in Zamfara, somewhere that is very far from where the depot is. But that is the price of it presently, and we're saying that is the reason why we're having this queue resurfacing. Now, the reason why I want us to discuss is just last week we were looking at the government complaining on how much Nigerians have spent, Rachel, on generators and all of that, just so that they can provide something of getting another means of power. And here we're having a government that is not working towards what they need to do. Just last week was where we saw that the tariff was being increased for Ban A, where we're still Labour is complaining about that. In fact, there are certain areas, Rachel, when you hear that they are under Ban A, you wonder why such an area would be under Ban A, because obviously the people in that place don't really have what it takes to actually power or to pay for that tariff. But then here we are, the queues are back again, and I just cannot help but wonder, when are we ever going to get it right, Rachel, that you can actually walk to any fuel station, get your PMS without necessarily going through that? It's either we're having the issue of adulterated fuel, or we're having the issue of a refinery. We saw that issue between Dangote and other the IOCs concerning what is being supplied to him, how much he's buying this, and you just can't help it. Since I say we take a step forward, one step, and then we are like 5 steps backward again, and you really cannot place a finger what really is the problem, and how can we do away with always having queues coming over and over? Because these queues give birth. That is where you hear that a car was stolen. We've had situations like that because the queues get very long. Some people decide to park their car, go come back, and then you're not there. And then small talking about theft as well. We've seen that where people steal people's phone and all of that. Now, all of these things is what we're seeing happening regarding this issue of these queues coming up. But I'm wondering, why are we having fuel scarcity again?
So we're having fuel scarcity because we import fuel. Until the day we stop importing fuel, we'll never stop having fuel scarcity. That's for sure. That's a fact. It goes for any good. Go to the market. Any good that is being imported, seller, you might find it today and not find it tomorrow. You will go and your seller, your customer will tell you, this is not available. This is what is available for now. This is equally good as that one, is the same quality and all of that. We are conversant with the market, and we know that that is what is obtainable to any product that is not locally produced in the country. Whereas it's different. You can't find tomatoes. We will always have tomato. The only challenge is the affordability. We'll always have beans. We'll always have maize. We will always have every grain that is grown within here. The problem, the challenge that we are having right now is the affordability. How much inflation, food inflation, but not like if you go to the market now, there won't be tomatoes, or when you go, you will not find beans or rice. It's always available because it's within us. We are producing it here on our soil. It's affordable. We will struggle with price. For petrol, we are not only struggling with price, but its availability. And it's only because we still import it. That is one reason, right? The other reason, of course, are every reason we can say is man-made, but this one could also be market control, monopoly, exploitation, and all of that, hoarding and all of that, where we can see certain distributors, marketers who will decide to hold because of speculations that there's going to be increase of in the fuel pump price, and then waiting to see in order not to run at a loss. But at the same time, it still boils back to the fact that we are importing this oil. Because if we are not, then we will be able to amount for a certain amount of sustainability within a period of time. Why? Because there will be a system. It is NNPCL, for example. We know that they are the major distributor. It's going to be the same as regarding refined oil. So by the time we do have that, our consumption is strictly within our own shores, and we know that every petrol that we consume is coming out from one NNPCL and refinery, be it in Port Harcourt, be it in Kaduna, there will be control, and this price scare and worry will not really exist. Will there be hike? Yes, but not to the extent that it will cause a scarcity to this extent and amount. These are all the factors around this fuel scarcity, and until I believe we are able to move past that level, we will continue to have fuel scarcity in Nigeria. It's not only in our country, although I don't like to make this kind of comparison and say, well, we are doing better than the others. Of course not. That's not where I'm coming from. I'm just trying to say these are certain global issues. But for an oil producing country, I don't think it should be a problem for us whatsoever. However, we find ourselves in that situation, and until we fix that, so we're seeing a promise from the Dangote refinery that, well, hopefully we will be able to still see production and supply for July, despite left, right, center sabotage and all of that. And what will be the report for our refineries that the dates keep moving? They keep taking it backward and backward and backward, and we don't know when it will eventually. But as for fuel scarcity, I don't think it's about to go if it is at the level we are now concerning fuel importation.
Well, just like you said, as far as we keep importing oil, we're bound to see things like this happening. But I hope that the government can come in, because Rachel, you mentioned a very valid point, because this is where we begin to see that transportation is going to be very expensive right now, Rachel. Of course, we're happy then. I mean, fuel was about 6.17 or so, depending on where you're buying it. And you made mention, if you are going to the mega filling station like the NNPCL, you get it at that price. But if you go to other black markets, you know that, of course, that is not the price. So if it's 7.20, for example, in a mega filling station, it's obviously it's going to be maybe 800 or more in other black, market stations. So we hope that the government can actually come to the rescue of Nigerians and do something about it. We saw Mele Kyari last week complaining about the oil output, oil theft, what needs to be done. And this is not the first time we're hearing this issue of oil theft. So we hope we'll be able to handle this headlock henceforth. Now, still in relation to that, we're saying that scarcity of food is another reason why we're having food inflation, which you rightly mentioned already. But we're looking at the fact that banditry has actually made food prices worse. We're seeing that farmers cannot have access to their farm, which we've mentioned and discussed all the time, where farmers are being taxed by bandits before they'll be able to get proceeds from their farm. We're also seeing the issue of cattle rustling rampage in most of the states. Plateau State, Benue, Kaduna. We've had a number of states that are complaining. In fact, we saw where Ekiti saying that they will not allow any issue of herders farmers clash to actually affect output of food. But here we are. I remember there was a time where someone gave the solution. Gumi said that we need to have a cattle ministry, more like a herders ministry. So we'll be able to control this. And I asked a question, if we are going to have a herders ministry, then we should have farmers ministry. Why do we have the Ministry of Agriculture? It's an umbrella for both. But here we're looking at banditry taking the order of the day, causing so much havoc. Right now, states that normally we do have, more food produce coming from that particular thing, they are not able to meet up with their particular quota. Permit me to use quota more like oil, but that is what it is. For example, in Plateau State, that you're expected to see Irish potatoes, you're expecting to see tomatoes at a particular price. We're seeing that the price is not the way it is again. There was a time you could buy a bag of Irish potato, maybe 12,000 naira. Rachel, right now, a bag of potato is almost getting to 60,000 naira. And so you just can't help but wonder, what is the government doing concerning this issue of banditry? Because we've said this and it seems as if it's getting into this ear and going through the other ear, and it seems that the relevant authorities are not doing what they need to do to make sure that, you know what, farmers will feel secure to go. Right now, we're seeing that a number of people cannot even afford their daily meals. Food that used to be affordable is no longer affordable. Maize that then you just thought that it was supposed to be for the poor. Right now, how much is the measure of maize? How much is the measure of rice for those who can afford it? How about beans? We saw where even the issue of malnutrition when it comes to children, because they're unable to have access to basic diet they are supposed to get. So all of these things are just happening, and you just can't help but wonder, how would the government come in? I know, yes, that the government is trying to, the federal government, remember, was actually telling state governors to do something. But what is the government trying to do concerning this issue of banditry? So that we could be able to have food produce the way we should. Because the way we are going right now, I do not know what the government have in mind, but I hope that they are actually having a good plan to be able to save farmers from the hands of bandits eventually.
Stella, we all know how production is. When it comes to the fixed price, is cost plus profit. So if at the end of the day, if I'm a farmer, if my production cost is perhaps I'm leasing the land or I have it, if my production cost have to include fertilizer, seedlings, labor, and then paying of herdsmen, it has to enter into the price of what I will take it to the market. It has become a cost of the production. Therefore, it will be a part of the fixed price or the price that eventually gets to the market. Either way. And as long as that is happening, we will continue to see an increase in the prices of goods in the market. We are going to see inflation. And the worst part of it is not only that we will see an increase, is we might not see. As we've seen the crops that are affected on the plateau, we're seeing guinea corn, we are seeing maize, we are seeing potatoes, we are seeing even tomato, we are seeing the things that are depending on the region. We know the attack in the Bokos, we know that of Mangu, and we know what these people produce, the maize, potatoes, and these have been commercial crops for us on the plateau, because I know how people are depending on these Irish potatoes from plateau elsewhere, and automatically when the output is low, it means our revenue is low and all of that. So we are not only faced with inflation but also insecurity concerning food, and that is the scarcity we are facing. And in my opinion, we've said this over and over, I believe that the government know exactly what to do. They know, Sele. They know the measures, the tactics, the strategies that they are supposed to put. They know precisely the help that the state government needs, because I want to believe that every state governor that is prone to these kinds of attack and the effect of this insurgency in production have, of course, a working government have contacted the federal government and saying, this is our particular need, our peculiar need precisely on the plateau, in Bauchi, in Kaduna, in Zamfara, in different states, depending on what they produce, and say, this is what we are facing, this is where we need your intervention, this is what we need help, and all of that. I keep saying the government have more resources, more first-hand access to certain data, to certain information, to be able to work on it. And sometimes I might even think it's a waste of time for us thinking we can advise the government, because I don't think what we're thinking they haven't thought of it. Is the implementation. Are they willing to put the work? And I don't think we can ever stop emphasizing on the fact that they are not putting out the work. If you know these places are prone to, what are you doing when it comes to these seasons in particular? It might not be all through the year, but why can't we be deliberate in our lines of action throughout the year? Okay, this is the season for this. These people are going to face this and this challenge. We need to step in for them to be able to have a flow of what they need to do. I believe we might not be able to afford all round year in year out protection. It's expensive, most especially for the state government. But when certain seasons come, are you willing to put in extra measures and take in extra steps to put? I think that is one way to go about it. That is one way to go about it. And I don't think it has been done. That is why we still have farmers lamenting that they are paying to have access to farm, to do all the things that they want to do. Is the government telling us that they cannot tackle this problem in particular? I think they can. Are they willing to? That is the question to ask the government.
We hope that we get the right answer to that question,
Yes.
Rachel, because I believe that this is not the first time we're asking this
Well, it's
question.
not.
In fact, we're not the first people to ask this question.
Yes.
A number of people have asked this question, but it's beyond the government coming out to tell us this. We need the right answer. Just like you said, you're familiar that there is a season. It's the rainy season, so you know that more farming activities takes place during the rainy season. What are you doing at the state level? It was still in this same country where we saw a particular state, farmers were killed on their farmland. And what will come out from one of our government officials, the fact that they didn't take permission before going to the farm. And I'm asking the question, Rachel, am I supposed to ask permission when I am supposed to have access to my farmland?
Maybe agreeing to that kind of structure that farmers should take,
So you get, Rachel, so you begin to wonder, where are we going as a country? If we're trying to say that, okay, we shouldn't just depend on oil, we should start looking into agriculture, and then the same agriculture is under threat right now. So where are we supposed to turn our attention to? So just like you said, we hope that the government will pay attention to it, because whether we like it or not, it's not only farmers that have been affected, even manufacturers. We see industries that depend on this farm produce to make certain cereals, for example, and you're unable to get it at a price. We saw where certain beverages that we do consume before, the prices have increased. Why? Because the produce is high. So definitely whatever they will get eventually, the price will be higher for people consuming. So we keep our fingers crossed, hoping the government, just like you said, they know what to do. But beyond knowing what to do, are they doing what they are supposed to do? I think this is our concern. So we look forward to more. Well, thank you, Rachel, for doing this with me.
You're welcome,
and also
Sally.
Thank you to our viewers and every other person for making this program a success. We look forward again to doing this tomorrow. Do have a lovely day ahead.